Mega is an improvised satire from the staff of a fictional megachurch. Hiya, I'm Hallie Labont, and this is Mega, coming to you from Twin Hills Community Church, where every single week we're giving our mega church a tiny family feel. We love to introduce you to members of our church staff and people from our community, and I always find it to be a treat and a treasure. And per usual, I'm joined by my co-host. He's the youth pastor for our high school ministry called Climax. Please welcome Gray Haas.
There's a guy I like, and his name's Christ. Hallie, how are you?
Oh, so blessed. Yes. Well, just like David had a Jonathan, our man Gray has a friend here from his men's small group today. It's making me feel so blessed. It's my pleasure to introduce Kent Watkins. How you feeling today, Kent?
Oh man, I feel good because I have the Lord in my heart and soul. I'm so excited to be here. I got to be honest, I'm a little nervous. I ain't never done nothing like this before in my life.
Oh, you're going to be great.
Well, Kent is, yes, as you say, Hallie, a member of my small group. And, he's someone that basically I met Kent when he was a senior in high school. He had just
that was a long time ago, man.
It really was. I mean, it's kind of a long time ago.
Because you're still so young,
I'm pretty young. So, for me, but I really related to Kent as a high school student because he had where did you move from again, Kent? You had moved to Indianapolis as a senior, wasn't that right?
Yeah, I moved to Indianapolis from Lake Wales, Florida, dead center of the state. What took us out of the state was, I think it was about 2004. Hurricane Charlie came right through the center of the state, and I ain't experienced nothing like that. Now, I'm like, I ain't going to experience nothing like that. I ain't going to experience nothing like that anymore. I tell you that.
That's right.
Smart.
Yes, I mean, yeah. So, and you showed up at Climax Youth Ministry, just a windblown, wet kind of hurricane.
I sweat a lot. If that's what you're referring to.
Okay. Yes, that's right. And we became fast friends, and then of course now you're a member of my small group, and it's just been so. You've just been such a positive influence on the small group as we've walked each other in our walk with Christ. Isn't that right? Oh,
that's right. I tell you what, it's the thing I look forward to every week, not only Sunday church, but your small group, because you know what? I think it's so important for men to be able to talk to other men and not therapists. We have our thoughts on therapy, and we don't. But I feel so blessed and privileged to be surrounded by such strong believers of Christ.
That's right.
Yeah, and you know what? These secular therapists, they'll charge you $350 for 45 minutes where all they do is spend the whole time telling you to blame your parents for everything and that you're some kind of victim instead of, for free, you can give it up to God.
That's right. That's right. I tell you what, my parents, they never did nothing wrong to me, but provide me with a life and opportunity. So, my daddy always said, if he's going to throw back a Coors Light, he's got to do it for the good Lord and Savior. So I don't question my father, my bodily father, and I don't question my heavenly father.
Awesome.
For a second, I thought you said bodily, like a bottle, but Coors, I think, is in a can, right?
Coors Light is the silver bullet of beers that it's usually in a can, Gray.
Got it.
But I feel like, their marketing is clever because I think they have the mountains change color based on how cold the beer is. I'm afraid that's going to attract kids to be like, this can is cool.
Well, I'll tell you for a fact, my daughter Charlotte, she just got into college. She's not yet 21, but it does attract her. It does. And I will say, I miss the days of Coors Light when you didn't have all this high-tech fancy devil work on the sides of the can that change colors and whatnot. Get us back to the days of simplicity because you're leading sin to children.
That's right. And I think that's something that you do, Kent, is you keep it simple.
Awesome.
And you are someone who, when you come to small group, you just are somebody that really keeps it simple. And I think a simple faith is a great faith. And you're not bringing in a bunch of complications to your faith. Isn't that right?
No, I try not to, at least. I've lived, as you know, Gray, I've lived quite a complicated, confusing life with a lot of ups and downs, and we can dissect that a little bit on here. I don't know if you want to, but after a hard, long day's work, may I promote my company real quick?
Oh,
Please.
absolutely. Yeah, I did say he could do this.
I want to promote my company, Cardinal State Fire Extinguisher Service Incorporated, serving all of Broad Ripple, Indiana, and the surrounding areas. So I just wanted to get that in there, or the boys at the company will definitely have my hide after this. But after a long days of work of slinging fire extinguishers, I think I just need something simple. You need to get all I like to say, throughout the day, much like a fire extinguisher that's full of ABC chemical powder, I get full of ABC chemical powder by the end of the day, and I need to expel it through my hose. And fortunately, the fire around me that I get to expel that ABC chemical powder or CO2 powder if you're aiming at electronics. If you spell the ABC chemical powder to the fire around you in this small group like Gray's, you're going to get a lot out of your soul, and you're going to leave feeling like a brand new man. And boy, Gray, did I. This week was transformative, and I didn't realize what was going to happen in our small group this week. But that's what kind of led to this here today.
Well, and you said you had a complicated backstory. I'm sorry, I never really asked you many questions about yourself as a teenager or in the small group, and maybe we can get into that because my style is usually telling people, not really asking. I don't ask and I do tell, but something like Kent said this week, Hallie, we were just really putting up on the cross. We were just writing down things that we struggle with. And we were writing those down on note cards, and we were putting them up on a cross that we had,
Cool.
First we did a little wood project. We all nailed 2x4s together. In Kent's case, he actually showed us how you could light one of those 2x4s on fire and then put it out.
I could light a cross on fire, and you could put it out real quick.
That's right. And then we just put our prayerful considerations on the cross of our struggles, and then Kent, you reached out to me and said, hey, maybe I could come on the podcast because we didn't really share the struggles yet with each other, but maybe I could come talk about my struggle while also promoting, Cardinal products, which I said, of course you could do during the podcast. So
thank you so much, Gray.
What was the struggle that you were dealing with this week in small group?
Oh, this is very hard for me to talk about, but I do feel like this podcast is a safe space, and Twin Hills Community Church is a safe space. So, you know what? I've dealt with a bout of infidelity.
No. It grieves the heart of God. Yep.
And you know what? It nearly destroyed my marriage with Gretchen, and but I believe that the first step to healing is speaking.
Yep.
And I admitted my mistakes this week in small group, and I need to do it in front of my whole church right now, if that's okay.
Awesome.
Oh, I guess I do remember you saying this, and I might admit not been paying attention, but so infidelity, your wife Gretchen. What was the nature of the infidelity? Were you running around with a little, trollop of some sort?
Yeah. I think that, infidelity is the cardinal sin, no pun intended, with the name of my state fire extinguisher service company or the state bird of our great state. But infidelity has ravaged my soul, and to describe it and dissect and reveal the way in which I dipped my toe into the infidelity pool is this.
You did more than that.
Yes, sir, I did. And I opened I opened a few years ago an Instagram account, not for myself. I don't need none of that. That's more for my daughter Charlotte and Maribel, even though I have my opinions. But I opened one for Cardinal State Fire Extinguisher Service because the yellow pages, they ain't working no more, as we know.
Right.
Yep.
So you got to get on with the times. And as you are with this podcast, you got to get on with the times on social media. So a few years ago, I opened up a social media account. And up until last week, it was strictly business. It was strictly business. And then, you know what? I was a little bored. I was a little bored on a Saturday. You know, I was like, oh, church is tomorrow. What am I going to do today? So I cracked open a Coors Light, like my great father before me. And, you know, as sometimes that just one sip can open parts of your soul that you lay dormant. And I opened up my Cardinal State Fire Extinguisher Service Instagram account that has now since been deactivated.
Oh, no.
And I went on the bottom of Instagram. There's I believe a little spotlight, like a page that you can just see all kinds of things. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is great. I never even knew this existed. And I start scrolling and it's a lot of great, you know, fire extinguisher content, a lot of biblical messages, and a lot of motivational speeches. So I was just drawn in, and before I knew it, minutes turned into hours. And then all of a sudden, like a little serpent in there, I saw breasts like I'd never seen before. And there was a woman on my spotlight page by the name of Sydney Sweeny. And
oh, no. Who's that?
Well, you don't want to know, because she is a serpent, and she is a succubus, and she sucked me in. And I was there all night, and I lied to my wife. And by there all night, I mean just like staring at this one picture. And I printed it out. I printed out the picture, and I went out back and I put the picture on a tree with a thumbtack, and I hugged that tree, and I felt the sides of it, and I imagined myself with someone that wasn't my wife, and I went in and I felt ickier in my soul than I have ever felt. And
oh, I'm sorry.
That poor tree.
Poor tree indeed. I chopped and burned that tree down and immediately put it out with a fire extinguisher. But I tell you this, I went in that house and I admitted to my wife that I have committed adultery and I have committed sin, and if she needs to leave me, she can, and she did the right thing, and her and Charlotte and Maribel have been staying with my mother-in-law since then. And I just want to say to my church that I am sorry, and to my fellow members again of your small group, I am sorry, and to my wife, I will never be able to say sorry enough. And to Sydney Sweeny, I hate you.
Oh, yeah.
I hate you, Sydney Sweeny.
I hate her too. And I don't even know who she is.
Same. Well, I'll tell you what, Kent, I just have to applaud you as an upright man of God for being honest about, you stumbling in the flesh. And the good news that I have for you, if I might offer you a word basket of encouragement, I'll tell you what, Kent, you're all done. You have confessed. That's all you have to do as a godly man. Now,
it's covered in the blood.
Guess what? All the responsibility is now on your wife. And I am here to tell you that when you, as a man of God, all you have to do is confess, which you have done. Yeah. And so now it's on her. She will forgive you. She can forgive you. God will lead her heart. The Holy Spirit will whisper in her ear, because all a Christian man has to do is confess. And then now you've handed the responsibility to your wife. It's on her now to get about the business of forgiving and welcoming you back in and all of that. And I'm proud of you, Kent. I am very proud of you.
Me too, bro. Me too. And yeah, I just want to give you a bro hug right now and just let you know it's going to be okay. So get in here and there we go.
Are you going to hug for real?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Thank you.
I do want to say, well, I guess I did have that question of, I noticed you had chopped down that enormous tree.
Yeah.
I had to.
It must have been therapeutic.
And Hallie, I sang at Kent's wedding, and that was actually the tree you got married under. Isn't that right?
Isn't that ironic? That ironic?
Definitely.
But much like Jesus, I have to chop and burn down lust when I see it. And And I did it immediately. I never have felt sin in my heart like I did in that moment. And it was the devil creeping up out of Sydney Sweeney's breasts and into my heart and my soul. Sydney Sweeny is her boobs, not her. Her breasts are the devil.
Okay. What is she? What is she again? What does she do?
Hallie, do you know?
Let me see. Let me look it up. I can ask Siri real
okay,
quick.
well, you please do not hold that anywhere near me, Hallie, because I do not ever want to see anything like that. I just don't even want to.
Oh, well, my land. I mean, the devil is lurking, isn't he, Kent? The devil can lurk in an Instagram search bar. The devil can be anywhere. And it's not your fault, my man. This is like the moment in Good Will Hunting.
Not your fault.
It's not your fault.
It's not your fault.
Your fault.
I do feel a little bit better, but I do think that the next step is my wife Gretchen. It's now her fault. She's, like you said, I think she legally and biblically needs to forgive me, and now this is on her, and I feel good.
Has she been able to? Yeah, I mean, have you had any contact with her since you told her about this whole thing and chopped down the tree and whatnot?
I've multiple attempts at phone calls and texts. I mean, I sent a text. I literally drew a picture of her beating up Sydney Sweeny because just to show that I don't even. This woman is nothing to me. It was presented to me by the devil, and I'm Gretchen. I know you're watching. You watch this every week, and I just need you. It's in your hands, according to Gray and Hallie.
Yep.
And I guess it's something we should bring up, Hallie, because I'm not sure if you know Gretchen, but I've known her for quite some time, and I would say she is very different looking than Sydney Sweeny.
Sydney Sweeney's about 5'3". She's in her 20s. You know, she's very petite. And to have this set of jammers on the front like she's got there on her chest is very unnatural for how tiny and petite she is. This is like a child with breasts.
Yeah, you know what it made me realize is the beauty that is within my wife Gretchen, and I realize I don't need some slim, young, blonde, girl in her mid-20s, big breath. Who needs that? When you get past 18, I think you're supposed to get ugly.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, well, at least from the point you're married onwards, because you just love each other so much that you can really, finally get comfortable. And that's the beauty of marriage.
That's right. You don't need to work so hard no more. I mean, I work hard enough at Cardinal State Fire Extinguisher Service Incorporated, day in and day out, slinging fire extinguishers to Broad Ripple and all the surrounding areas that I don't need to go home and worry about my health or my body or my fitness, and nor should my wife, And
you know what Sydney Sweeny would be doing? She would be demanding that you have something other than a dad bod,
Oh,
Who
God,
needs that?
Lord knows.
And something I want to bring up, and this is just how I think, because, I am a youth pastor, I am a spiritual leader, and isn't it a God thing, Kent, that you sell fire extinguishers to literally put out fires for people who are in danger, just can't cook, and then you had to show up in your own life and use the fire extinguisher that is Jesus to put out the flames of hell that showed up in the form of a printout that was stuck to a tree that you eventually had to I mean, this, I'm sorry guys, but this is just how I think. I think in metaphor. I'm always just trying to.
That's why you're the man you are. That's why you
Thank you so much.
It's a godly business you've started, Kent. I mean, putting out fires, when hell is a fire, you're doing the Holy Spirit's work, you're doing it right here on earth. You're extinguishing hell on earth.
I tell you what, when in that moment where I was staring at I got to be honest. When I was in that moment staring at that picture of Sydney Sweeny on that tree, I saw the fires of hell. I saw
Really
damnation.
And was that before or after you set the tree on fire?
I saw that was before I set the tree on fire.
Okay,
actually,
good.
I saw what would have been my afterlife if I'd have continued down this lane of this relationship with this tree, and you know, I even all the extinguishers. You can quote me on this, and this should be on the billboard outside Twin Hills next week. I'm just going to say that all the extinguishers in the world cannot put out the fires of hell.
Oh, and is that the new catchphrase that I saw on the side of your truck?
Yes. Oh, that's something we're testing out that hit me that night too. And I think it's pretty brilliant, but it in that moment, I thought, you know what, if I have to go to hell, I'll take all these fire extinguishers with me. And I literally had a vision. I had a vision of me with a truckload of my Cardinal State fire extinguishers, and one at a time, I'm just extinguishing the fires of hell around me.
Awesome.
And as I was extinguishing, one fire'd go out and 3 more would start. And I'm just
Isn't
like,
that the
I am
way?
not meant to be here. Get me out of hell. Get me out of hell.
And that's what's so strong about you. Like Gray was saying earlier, you keep it simple, like that KISS acronym. Keep it simple, stupid. And not
Yeah.
that I'm calling you stupid, but to be honest, the disciples were uneducated men, you know?
You know
And
what? You
sometimes-
need to call me stupid for what I did. I think it's okay to make mistakes sometimes. It's then how you
That's right.
rebuild and
right.
come back after.
That's right.
Oh, and that's
why-
what we did in the small group, Hallie, is
really?
the first thing, when Ken said, I'm struggling, and, I just said, well, first, was it something stupid? And you said yes. And I just said, great, let's all stand. And first, we're going to just say that was stupid.
You
That
all
was
pointed at me and you
stupid.
called me stupid, and I needed it. I
And
needed
we
it.
said, you're a dummy. That's a dumb thing. Don't be a dummy, right?
Yeah.
And we said, and we really said it in a way that first just makes us realize, hey,
I will say
we're all
though that
human.
Jeff in the class, he said a little bit more towards me. Do we want to?
Yeah, he
do we
did.
want to? Do we want to bring that
Well,
up?
I mean, he did. I mean, Jeff, I think Jeff's in an unstable state right now anyway. And it just, he is someone who thinks he can do comedy. I don't really think what he says is funny, but I didn't think it was fair for him to kind of use it as part of his.
Oh, was he launching into a roast?
Yeah, it was just kind of like a crowd work moment. And, then he started saying things like, well, where do you work? And, we all know where Kent works. He
I
says
had
it
my
all the time.
company shirt on.
Yeah, and then he kind of used it to test his material, I guess.
Yeah, you know what? He in a past life before I started my fire extinguisher business, I was pursuing a career in professional wrestling, and I tell you what, they almost pulled out the killer Watkins out of me in that moment. But you know what? The new Kent Watkins stepped in, and patience prevailed on this one. Praise Jesus.
I do want to ask Kent, because you mentioned your father earlier, and a lot of times when someone is struggling with something like this, they didn't have the example that they necessarily needed with their parents. Was this something that growing up, maybe you saw your dad? I mean, of course, it probably wasn't computers then, but was he, sneaking out and looking at pictures of things? I mean, because a lot of time, and not to be a psychologist, because boring, but sometimes the sins of the father, they repeat, don't they?
Yep.
Oh, you know what? I never really thought about that till this moment, but a memory is creeping into my brain that, and I do think my dad dealt with a little bit of the wandering eye, as we like to say.
Yeah.
Because anytime I'd go into the bathroom and deal with my fecals, there was a drawer, and this drawer had a lock and key, and I'll never forget, I felt like a dream, but I believe it really happened, that one day that drawer was left unlocked. And a curious 10-year-old boy like myself, this is the door that's always been locked. I'm gonna go traipse into Narnia and see where this leads me. I creeped open that little drawer a little bit, and again, this might have been just a dream. It could have been reality, but I believe I saw a woman in lingerie underwear, and her name might have been Victoria, and I believe she had a secret. And I don't know this to be true. Again, could just be a made-up dream memory, but I believe that maybe in that drawer, my dad had a drawer of sin that he was struggling with as well.
Yep. Well, it's how men are made, unfortunately. Guys are wired to be visual creatures and to crave the female anatomy as if they are a dog at a bowl of meat. It's not your fault. It's the responsibility of women to cover themselves up and to not be 25 with big knockers on Instagram. And my heart goes out to you, Kent. It really, really does.
It does.
Thank you. I really needed to hear that. And you know what? It ain't my fault. It ain't my fault. I don't want to like big old knockers. I don't want to like a juicy old Latina booty. But these are just things that are my primal urges. And, and I'm sorry. I can't help it. I don't like it, but I can't help it.
When it comes to the social media too, and I have most women blocked on social media just so there's no temptation. But I do have that question of like, yes, men are wired that way, but aren't women from the very beginning? They are deceivers at their very core.
Started in the garden.
It really did. And so I've got to ask the question of, hey, what is she trying to do there that it's popping up on your timeline? What kind of hashtags is she using? And what kind of traps is she setting so that good and upright men fall right into them like a bunch of, and like I said before, stupid dummies?
Yeah, well, this stupid dummy fell right into the trap. And the sad part and the scary part is I'm not the only man out there that likes big old knockers from his primal urges, and I'm not the only man that wants just a big old Latina Puerto Rican booty in his life. I'm not the only one, and I'm just the one that came out of the trap, out of the fires of hell, and I was able to extinguish it with a Cardinal State Fire Extinguisher Service fire extinguisher.
Oh, cool. Well, great. I'll tell you what, there was only one man in the history of planet Earth who didn't think about breasts and what a woman's got in the front top and the back bottom. And there's only been one man ever, and that was Jesus. And you know what? The fact that you got sucked into this, nightmare situation by the evil one himself. You know what? It's the reason Jesus hung on the cross that day. And I believe that when Jesus was hanging on that cross, he knew it was for you and for that moment with the tree. And I picture Jesus hanging up there on the cross. And you know what he was thinking about? He was picturing you embracing that tree and looking at that gal on that printed out piece of paper. Was it a color printer or a black and white printer?
For sure. Color.
Full color. So, and I picture the only time maybe Jesus has seen breasts is when he saw that image of you hugging him on a tree that he was simultaneously dying for.
Hallie, I couldn't have said it better myself. I think that Jesus died for our sins, and for me that day was the sin he died for.
And I think maybe I can say it better, Hallie, which is, and I'm sorry I do this, but I just love to kind of point out these teaching moments. Isn't it interesting that Jesus died on a cross? That what we say Jesus hung on a tree?
Yep.
Made of wood.
Gosh,
and guess what? I mean, I think we can draw all those amazing God.
I have God bumps.
We've all said in the Twin Hills Community Church that there needed to be a new chapter of the Bible, and I don't want to jump the gun here, but maybe I am a part of that new book, the Book of Kent. I don't know. I think that what I went through, maybe, the story needs to be told, and maybe we can start at the Twin Hills Community Church, where we have a lot of talented people in our church, gifted writers. Lord knows I'm not, but we have a lot of gifted writers. And so if anybody out there wants to come together and help me, maybe write the Book of Kent. I don't know, make human history. We can then just shove it in the Bibles that we have at church and start there and see what happens.
It's not a bad
Well,
idea.
Trump threw the Constitution into the Bible, so
Oh, I know. And I think
Praise him.
We could always do with some more pictures. And so that
I want predominantly pictures, very minimal text. It's the best way, I think, for our modern generation to absorb knowledge.
Well, I just think it's so impressive, brave, honest, and true that we have a Christian man who is holding himself accountable, who, yes, has lost his wife, perhaps for now, maybe forever, but that is living fully in the truth. Right. It is in God's hands right now. And after all the feedback that Hallie and I have given you, Shane, and of course the great examples that I provided today, what do you take away from this as just the moral of the story of your life that you're living right now?
Oof. I think the moral I'm taking away from all this is it's not a man's fault. And I think sin starts younger and younger these days, and that's why I'm here today, because at Cardinal State Fire Extinguisher Service Incorporated, we have a very special promotional promo going on right now where we are giving out children under the age of 10 their first kiddie fire extinguishers, because I believe kids are going to deal with moments that I dealt with from the book of Kent, and they are going to also be printing out pictures of Sydney Sweeney's and Jimmy Ortega's, and they're going to be putting them on trees, and they're going to be doing worse things than a hugging. I tell you what. So kids, if you're watching here at home, Kent Watkins wants to give you your first fire extinguisher totally for free, paid for by the Lord and Savior. And if you deal with that situation, you light that tree on fire, and then you put it out with a Cardinal State fire extinguisher.
Kent Watkins was played by the wonderful Shane Hartline. Check out all his great work on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok, and follow him at Shane_Hartline. I'm Holly Laurent playing Hallie Labont, and Gray Haas was played by Greg Hess. Follow us and Mega the Podcast on Twitter and Instagram. And if you really want to get out of hell free card, support us on Patreon. The link is in the show notes.